Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Prep Life Podcast. This is your founder and CEO of Glam Girl Bikini, Amy Enger. And today I'm joined by my fabulous co-host, Leemarie Hossetter. How are you doing?
Doing good.
Good. So we're going to do a Q&A today. We had, we've had some questions, pop up like regularly in terms of just like common things that people think about that we may not talk about all the time. So I figured this would be a good opportunity to kind of chat about some of these questions that have cropped up over the years. And I do want to address first and foremost one that just came in through DM on IG. So if you ever have questions, send them our way on Prep Life Podcasts through Instagram or at Glam Girl Bikini. But this particular competitor was asking me, she had listened to the skin episode that we did about Botox. And we know that if you've listened to that one, that I just started using Botox when I turned 45 in February. So I just got mine redone. You can probably tell my forehead's a little bit shiny. So it's probably settled in by now because I got it done last Thursday. And I tried a new kind this time, and it's Daxify or Daxi. A lot of people abbreviate it that way. And so the listener question was, how do you maintain your Botox as a competitor? Because when we exercise a lot, we metabolize through the Botox, I guess, faster. So most people can last like for me, it was 90 days. It was about 3 months that mine, I could tell it was starting to basically fade away. So I used like the standard Botox the first time. This time around, we tried Daxi just to see if I'll get a little bit more longevity. So, to that listener that asked, the jury's still out as to whether or not it lasts longer than the 3 months. But it is something that to consider to try the Daxify instead. So from what, you know, AI tells me, basically the Daxi can last 6 to 9 months for
Okay.
most people that are fitness enthusiasts. And then just like for whatever reason, because we exercise so much, it just burns through faster. So try that. I don't know if you already have, listener, but that's my advice. So,
That's amazing. We'll have to do like a follow-up with you.
yeah, yeah. See me in 6 months. See if I
Yeah.
have wrinkles on my forehead.
Okay. I don't really think about that much about that side of bodybuilding, that there might be consequences to working out so much. We usually
Yeah.
only think like about the pros, but there are some cons to consider. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely more expensive to maintenance it because it's not cheap. I will tell you that. It's something that you want to wait for as long as you can. So
I
don't
love
do it
that.
unless you absolutely have to,
Okay.
I think. So anyway. Okay, so should we just dive right into some of these questions? All right, so the first one is how do I know if I'm addicted to prep or just disciplined? What are your thoughts on this? This is kind of like a deep dive question in a
Yeah,
way.
I love this. I absolutely love this. So I think there's two people that prep. I think there's the people that just want to do it like a bucket list, and then there's people that really have goals of progressing in the sport. I think both of those people have the usually have the discipline gene or whatever. Like they're people that thrive on routine, on discipline, on having a focused goal. And so I think a good way to think if it's that you want to progress in the sport versus that you were just disciplined and this is like a way to channel that discipline is if you are always focused on getting to the next level in this sport and you're willing to play the long game, you're willing to go through strategic and structured off seasons with your coach, make the improvements that the judges are telling you in order to, strategically do another show to progress and work on perfecting your body as like as your craft in your sport. I think that would be you would be more focused on bodybuilding as a sport versus if you just love having a goal, being disciplined, having a training plan, maybe having a coach, but you can bounce around. So like I've loved bodybuilding, but I also have done other sports. And I just love having a goal. I love being focused. I love having a training plan. I love having a coach and getting feedback. And so I just thrive on that, whatever sport I am doing. And I love the method of bodybuilding. Like I love the training style of bodybuilding. But I don't know that I would say I'm addicted to prep. I think I'm just disciplined and I love channeling that in prep, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so for me personally, I've experienced the addictive side of prep and the discipline side, I believe. So I would say between 2015 and 2016, when I kind of learned what it meant to like what you actually do with a national qualification.
Mhm.
So I had just turned masters, and I, at that point in my life, I believe I was addicted to prep. I was prepping way too much. I would get on stage at like 119. I'm 5'7". I was in a mode where I was eating the same meal plan for 6 months, and I was just moving from one show to the next. It was way too much. I wasn't giving my body time to recover, like to grow muscle, anything like that. I feel like I was addicted to it. And there was a shift there, I think somewhere in 2017, when um, I realized that this is like for the long game, and I had come off like probably the worst rebound of my life, because I had gone from like a high fat diet, low carb, and then if you binge on like high fat foods, it's crazy how I mean, I just blew up, and I realized from that point on that like you can't just keep prepping for the next show to like stay in shape, that there's a process, that this is a lifestyle, that you have to have growing seasons, but you also need to be disciplined in those seasons as well. And you can't just survive off of like going from one show to the next to just try to stay lean. That's not a good sustainable way. It's not a good way to like excel in the sport or have any sort of progress. So I was caught in that like rut of just like living from one show to the next. So I can tell you from my standpoint that I think it's not a good thing to be addicted. And sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees. Like you're just like in the like one to the next. It's like a hit, of like it's an addiction. So I think, stepping back and kind of analyzing that, I don't really know like the fix on that, but I think it's a slippery slope. It's easy to do. I think a lot of times we'll get like frustrated with the amount of weight that we've gained post show or how we've rebounded. And then we're like, okay, I need to cut. So I need to
Mhm.
go into another show when we're not actually ready for that. So, yeah,
Now that I hear you, I kind of understand the question a little bit better. Now that I hear your feedback, I think if we bounce back and forth and we feel like we have to be on prep in order to slim down and get healthy, I think that's when you should take a step back and work on the discipline first because you're going to have a better prep if you
yeah,
have that discipline already established.
yeah. And discipline's a weird word too, because it's like, I would say I was very disciplined during those times, but it's only disciplined because I was getting ready for a show. And then like the opposite. So there wasn't any sort of gray. It was like 100% in or 100% out, where that just can't mesh if you are actually wanting to live the prep life and do this in a sustainable, functional way. So,
Exactly.
all right, moving on to the next question. What does body dysmorphia actually look like during prep? Um, do you want to take this to start,
Sure.
or do you want me?
So I love this question. I heard a fitness influencer, I don't even remember who it was, or I would give her a shout out, but she basically said every one of us have body dysmorphia. Like none of us actually know every single day like what we look like and how we look to others because we see ourselves from a certain angle in a certain mirror or a certain or picture or whatever. And so we all to a certain point don't really know what we actually look like. And so everything in normal life is just heightened when you're in prep. And so body dysmorphia is very present in prep. And I mean, even if you have a healthy body image and a healthy mindset towards your body, in prep, your body is your goal, and you are working on creating the right body and the right look for stage. And so it's never going to be perfect to you. You're always going to think that you are not enough, you're not making enough improvements, you're not getting lean enough, all of those things. It's always a constant fight. And so I would say that body dysmorphia is just very present. You have to actually be at peace with your body so that you're not going to be like tortured mentally, but you also have to look at it from a standpoint of we're always working on our body. This is our sport, this is our craft. And so improvement, constant improvement is the goal, not perfection. I mean, Miss Bikini Olympia still has to go through an improvement season and another prep and compete again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's an ever evolving sport. You got to understand that. And then you got to be able to trust your coach to give you that feedback.
Yeah. I just think it's very easy to do. Prep goggles are a real thing, and it is nice to have somebody that's knowledgeable in the sport that's not going to just blow smoke, just tell you what you want to hear, but like also just give you the, you know, the framework and the self-efficacy to know that you're doing the right steps, that although you don't look stage lean right now, you have the tools and you have the guidance and the plan set in place that you're going to be successful if you execute on the things, and kind of like shifting your mind away from, constantly like criticizing how you look and things like that. Because it can be, you can be really, really lean and you can look back on those photos and you're like, dang, I look so good. But like what you have to be like actually on during peak week and on stage and how lean you actually have to be, especially if you've done a couple of these. So I think it just helps knowing that, trying to stick with the 24 hours that you have control of and really focusing on the tasks at hand and how you can control your actions and habits versus kind of over criticizing what you look like. But it's easy to happen. Hard to like teach against having some sort of that. Like you said, even if you have a healthy body image, I think it's hard to not be self-critical. Okay, so how do I prep when I'm not motivated, but I'm still committed?
Okay, I want to hear your answer on that because you've been prepping for what, 17 years? There's got to be some preps where you were not motivated, but you were still committed.
Yeah, so 15 years, but yeah, go
Okay.
ahead. Yeah, because I started my first prep in 2010. So yeah, I have to say, I I have a pretty easy time being motivated. I thrive with a goal. So I I would say I have more trouble with like the commitment side of it. Like for me, like I don't understand how people can't get to the gym and stuff like that. But like the commitment side of it, sometimes I allow life to like if I'm like taking care of my kids or whatever, like I have different priorities. Like prep's not my main priority. Like my children, like different things are, I have different ethics that, come into play and certain obligations and things that are a higher priority than prep. So I think that part of it, I'm easily motivated, I guess. I'm very like much a self-starter, like intrinsically and extrinsically motivated. Um, but I think on the commitment side of it, I think that's where sometimes I fall short just and I don't think it's a shortcoming by any means. Like in a way, like I do think it's a strength because I know who I am and who I need to be. And I know where prep lands in something. And at the end of the day, it is a hobby. So if you're doing it as long as I am, like there's bound to be things to come up, like with your career, like with your family, just things that happen in life that are more important than your prep. So sometimes my commitment, I mean, there's always shows, right?
Mhm.
So to me, like the motivation to keep improving myself is always really there. So I struggle actually like helping people with this is I would say that's one thing that I really struggle with as a coach is like getting someone motivated. I have a hard time when I want it more than the athlete. Like that's where things become incongruent and I kind of have to have a conversation with that person. I'm like, it's okay that you're not motivated to do this. Like no one's forcing you to do it. It's a hobby. But I want people to match my energy as a coach, you know? So I'm motivated to get them to their goals, and I am very committed to my clients and things like that. Um, just I know my boundaries, I guess, is what it is. I don't even know if that's a good answer or if I even answer the
Yeah.
question, but
No, I think that's really good. I think a few tips if you do struggle with motivation. Off the top of my head, become a fan of competing or bodybuilding or fitness in general. All of those things, like immerse
yeah,
yourself in, during your cardio or when you have time, listen to podcasts like this one, or bodybuilding podcasts. Follow like Miss Bikini Olympia, watch her vlogs. Turn it into a hobby and an interest, and really kind of immerse yourself a little bit in the sport and the fun of it, and so
yes,
that you're motivated to have fun with it. I love watching vlogs of fitness professionals in different sports like CrossFit or High Rocks is my new kind of obsession, or bodybuilding, or even I got into powerlifting for a while, so I was watching them and kind of following them with their competitions. And even if they're not bodybuilders, but I do watch a lot of bodybuilders too, you can kind of watch how they prep, and it kind of gives you motivation to be like to take yourself even more seriously. um
yeah,
and then sometimes I know you do this too, but like sometimes I just try and post a lot of my prep on my Instagram, and it's kind of my way of sort of pretending like I'm an influencer or I'm like a big time athlete, even though I'm not really, but I do have like a tiny little audience that will see my stuff. But even if I just post it for myself, like just have fun with it and get yourself motivated in that way. That's helped me a lot.
yeah. I think what you're saying too is an accountability piece of it, because I think whenever you verbalize a goal and you talk about that commitment, then regardless of what your following is or whatever it is, like I think to yourself, it makes you accountable to just putting it out there, right? Because speaking it into existence, like putting the journey out there, putting like what you're doing, all of that is, I mean, regardless of who's watching, you're putting it out there in the universe, right? And you're going to be more likely to keep doing it because you feel like, okay, well, I'm like sharing this goal. And so that accountability piece, it does, I think it does matter with motivation, which that would be an extrinsic motivation. And I think everybody's, motivated in different ways. Some people are motivated by both intrinsic and extrinsic, but some people have a hard time with intrinsic. Depends on what type of like what your tendency is. So some people need like a trainer and things to like keep them accountable, or like friends, family. And then so they need more external, and then other people need more internal. So they need to understand why they're doing something. So those are some ways that you can get motivated as well, I think. Okay. So the next one is it normal to resent people who aren't dieting?
Yes, it's definitely normal. Okay, I want to go one further on this though, because I think
Okay.
it's normal to resent people who don't need to diet. Like you've had two kids and you naturally have better abs than me. And you're never dieting. Like just people that are
Yes.
genetically blessed. And then there's those of us that just seem to have to work 20% harder to get like 10% less results. So
True statement. Preach
it's
on
so
that.
individual. It's so individual. And so it is
Yeah.
totally normal to resent people that are not dieting.
And I think some people resent others that aren't hard gainers, that they don't have to intake copious amounts of food. And I'm like, I'm resenting you because you can eat whatever. Whereas I look at that and I gain weight. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just grass is always greener, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you still like your body and still want to change it? Thoughts?
Yes. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think that's quite as normal. Like the last question is very normal. I think a lot of us want to change our bodies because we don't like it,
Yeah.
but I think definitely the longer you're in this and the more that you see what your body can do for you and how it performs, the more you practice gratefulness and thankfulness that your body is healthy, that you have all your limbs, that you don't have cancer, hopefully, and like things like that, that I think you can definitely still be at peace with your body, is maybe a better way of saying it, and love your body and treat it well and respect it, but also in a healthy way want to change it. I mean, that's what our sport is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so true. Everything that you said, your sentiments are right. I mean, they're spot on. And I just think that it's important to want to improve, yes, but also be happy, like you said, and content with what you have and be grateful. So, very well put.
Okay, here's one. This one's good. I love this. What's the etiquette backstage with other competitors?
Ooh.
I
So you're like,
have no
so,
boundaries. I'm gonna try and
yeah,
make friends with everyone. So
yes, you are so good
maybe not the
about
right
being
example. But I do,
bubbly.
I was thinking about this though, and I do think backstage, um, you can kind of there are a couple like when I try to make conversation with someone, what I do try to avoid is immediately leading with a physique compliment because
Okay.
everyone backstage is very critical. They're in a very sensitive place. Most, I would say probably 95% of competitors don't feel like they look good enough. And then there's like 5% that are like pretty confident they're going to get their pro card that night and they're just kind of like they don't want to hear it. They don't care what you think of their body. You know what I mean? Like they're in that
Yeah.
mindset. Um, so I always try to strike up a conversation that's like non-related. So maybe
Yeah.
make a joke about how freezing we are tanning or about like what we're gonna eat later or something and like try to make conversation that is non-physique related.
Good.
Or compliment someone on their hair and makeup or their suit or something like that. That's more neutral and then gauge their reaction. If someone is like returning the compliment and seems open for a conversation, then I would go from there. And if they're just like, thanks, then it's kind of like maybe they just need to focus. Maybe they're really nervous and they just need to remain calm and not be talking to other people. Just kind of gauge that, what that is, when you're making conversation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I have a rule as a coach, as a competitor. I always say I don't make any judgments about someone's character in peak week. And
Mm.
that includes show day. I literally think that sometimes it just changes people and they're in a state and I just have no judgment on their character. If they say something offensive to me or someone else, I take it with a grain of salt and I just chalk it up to it's a time right now that they're either hangry or tired or cranky. And so I just don't judge their character. I move on. So you get a pass with me on show day and peak week, just FYI. The other thing is that I think it's really important to be a unicorn backstage and be proactive about helping other people. I find that that calms my nerves. Like when you can kind of lend a hand to somebody, like maybe it's, tying in their suit tighter or like, doing like a check of their hair to help them kind of like get a hair back in place or see if they have something in their teeth or lending them a band. I just think those things are kindnesses that go a long way and you can make a friend. And some people really just don't want to be bothered, and you can kind of tell who those people are. And I give them their space because I can sometimes get in that zone too, where I just need to like kind of shut things off and like put my blinders on and kind of like just like not let myself get in my head by looking at other people. So I think it just depends on your headspace and just being respectful of the fact that there's going to be some people that it calms them down to talk, some people that they just want to be like with their headphones and not say anything until like the show's done. So,
Totally, totally.
okay. All right. What should I do if my friends keep pushing me to just cheat a little bit or family members, doesn't have to be friends.
Mhm.
Have you ever had that happen?
Okay, so not during prep because
Okay.
when I'm on prep, that's not even an option. So if your
Okay.
family members are not understanding prep, it is totally fine to just say, "Oh no, I'm in prep," and use prep as the reason. We
Yeah.
don't cheat in prep. That's not an option. That's
Yeah.
literally not an option because you're going to be standing on stage in a tiny little bikini in front of the judges, and you want to know at that point that you did everything right. You don't want to be
Yes.
standing up there and think, I could have gotten a better place if I hadn't had that cheat meal. It's not worth it. But I have had that happen in improvement season or reverse dieting, especially after a
Okay.
show. people don't understand that you can't just go back to normal eating and be okay. First of all, it's just you can't. You can't go back to eating normal foods and eat. You're so hungry and deprived at that point that if you went back to normal eating, you wouldn't eat what your normal body would eat normally. You would eat 3 times that amount, sometimes 5 times that amount. So
Yes.
it's very like you're just like a starving animal at that point because you can't, you have to restrict. Exactly. Literally how you feel. And so a lot of the times I will have friends be like, well, you're not in prep anymore. And it's like, well, no, but I still can't eat those things. And that's when it gets a little bit more sticky of like you need to have some answers ready to give on why you can't just it's like, well, I'm still working with my coach. I have a plan, I will be able to eat those things later or maybe you just want to kind of establish that you are a healthy, fit, disciplined person and you would prefer not to have that. Like when I
Yeah.
quote unquote cheat or eat like a treat or something, I want to make sure that that is something that I want, not
Yeah.
something that I'm
Yeah.
being pressured to have because that's not worth it to me. My fitness and my health and my goals are more valuable to me than pleasing someone else that is trying to pressure me into eating something that I don't want to eat. So that's my take
Good.
on it.
Good. Good. I like that. Yeah. Okay. So what if your partner isn't into fitness? Can it still work? So my partner is into fitness, but it took like I started the journey and I didn't know it, but he was reading my eat clean diet books like at night. And I kind of started the journey with that as my entry point because I didn't really know much about it. I just knew that Tosca Reno had made these like books about her bodybuilding journey and eating clean. And so I was researching those. And I guess like at night he was reading through them and he was thinking like from a Weight Watchers background, like seeing his mom do Weight Watchers and yo-yo diet all the time, like up and down, like starve herself and then eat a lot. He was like, whoa, this is like not really a diet. I'm doing air quotes. If you're watching me on YouTube, then you know what I'm talking about. But on so anyway, it was like more like a lifestyle. And I think it just took some steps, but he also had to like start changing his habits. Like we both stopped drinking and then like he started working out again after a long time of not. And so it was a process. So I can't say I'm in that situation at this point.
Mhm.
So how about you? Like, are
I
you,
think I I think so. So my partner isn't really into fitness, but he's very supportive.
okay.
And I think if you are in the fitness industry, it's important to have someone that is healthy and likes, has their own way of staying healthy,
Yeah.
because it's just going to be such a huge part of your life. But if your partner isn't like a bodybuilder, I definitely think it can work. I don't think it matters if your partner is a bodybuilder or plays golf. Like you need
Yeah.
to have a supportive partner. And it's
Yeah.
more about that. It's more about
Yes.
communication and support, making sure
Yeah.
you have someone that will support you in your goals, but also checking in with yourself and making sure you're not getting addicted to prep and you're
Yeah.
supporting them and you are being maintaining a well balanced, as much as possible, especially during improvement season and during the first part of prep. I know you might need to communicate that when prep starts getting rough, it is a little bit selfish and you do get a little bit short, and they maybe shouldn't judge your character during peak week and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's more important that your partner is supportive, but also if you're into fitness, like you want to have a partner that's healthy.
Yeah.
I, I don't.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably not going to date somebody with that doesn't have the same values. Or in my case, like, I mean, we were both college athletes, so we obviously were into like sports and things like that. And it was like we kind of got off track. Like we really weren't educated on how to eat properly and to fuel our body and to build it. And so I can say honestly, like because he has done one competition, I would prefer not to have somebody in the bodybuilding world as my partner. I really don't like it was the worst time ever, him doing a prep and like me being on the other side of that. Like I have actually like a ton of respect for him like being on the other side watching me do all these shows, which I know that he prefers that anyway, but it was not easy to support somebody doing a bodybuilding show. Honestly, like I didn't really care for it. I was glad. I would have never told him to not compete again, but I was low key glad that he never decided to do another one.
That's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's good. So, last question. I love this one too. Do people actually lose friends over bikini prep?
I would say I have,
Yeah.
but it was my choice because after changing my life so much, the friends that I was previously drinking with and eating crap and being like all these habits that I was glad to have purged out of my life, like as I grew as a person through the sport of bodybuilding, those friends prior to bodybuilding, I didn't like disown them, but I didn't spend as much time with them because their habits were not serving me as a person. Not because I'm judging them that, you know, they like to binge drink and like eat tons of crap, but like it just wasn't who I was anymore because I had changed so much and I didn't like being around that influence, which I didn't disown them or anything. I'm still like connected with them in a way, but I just didn't spend as much time with them because that wasn't a value of mine any longer. It wasn't
Yep.
there for
Yep.
me.
I think
So,
it's I think it's totally normal to go through seasons of friendship throughout our lives. I think
yeah,
when we're kids, because the reason you have friends is that you have something in common. So when
proximity
kids,
usually
yeah, usually
when
when
you're
you're
young.
kids, you're around each other. Maybe you're in
Yeah,
school together. You're kind of
yeah,
forced to be together, and so you make
yep,
friends. And then when you're adults, we sometimes have that at work. So
yeah,
sometimes we're forced to be around people and do things together at work. We have all these things in common and we bond. But
yes,
then when you have things in common, like maybe from college or something, and you go out and drink or eat or do things like that, that's what's, common. But then also when you start competing, it's like find friends where you have that in common that you can go
yeah,
to the gym with, that you can talk about prep with. I have friends that are prepping for totally different sports, but we are both in prep. And so we can talk about our training plans, about our coaches, about how dieting sucks, about peak week and things like that, about our performances. And it's those things that are in common. And I think something that I've
yeah,
learned over the years is like before I got into fitness, I was in the music industry. So I had a ton of friends that were in other bands and traveling and touring, and you have that in common. But then moving from that into a totally other industry, like, yes, there are some people that I still stay in touch with, but we just don't have that in common. And I'm not at the festivals and I'm not touring with them. And so then it's like, it's okay to let those friendships just kind of fade into a different level of friendship intimacy, and not invest
yeah,
much time in that and find new friends, because I mean you will probably have some friends that are just your ride or die friends, and that's cool too. Maybe it's your family too. I know my family is my best friends, and so I know they're with me no matter what we're into, and we hang out because we're family. But it's okay to have friends that are into what you're into, and that's the reason that they're your friends.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's a good one to end on. And I if there's any questions that sparked throughout this Q&A that you want like a deep dive on or additional questions, please pop them in the comments section of YouTube. Or like I said in the beginning of the podcast, please DM us on Instagram. Those of you that have sent messages, which I literally said that last week and I got like three more DMs this week. And so I just appreciate all of you that send love and tell us like how this is helping your prep and how you're getting through like your entire like preparation for your show by listening to the episodes. And it just means a lot to us. I know, at least for myself, I'm speaking that it really makes it worth it because we do this for that one listener to help that one person. And if we find that we're helping more than one, then that's even better. So, keep sending them our way. If you can tag us on your story and then share it, that way other people can find us. Or, if you leave a rating or review, that's probably the best way for other people that are interested in the same topics to find our podcast as well. And so we just want to kind of pass that on. If it is helping, want to help some more people in the process. If you would like to apply for coaching with Leemarie or myself, you can go to glamgirlbikini.com and hit the get started button. Thanks for listening, guys.